Alrighty. Good evening, everybody. Alright, 1 second. Let me add this. Alright, should be good to go now. Alright, good evening, everybody. How's it going? Alrighty. What's up, Tyler? Good evening, man. I think I'm still banned on. Oh, sweet. Cool, I'm banned. Alright, let's do this. Alright, what's up? What's up, David? What's up, Rashan Amir? Hopefully I said that right. I'm sorry. If I didn't, I will try harder. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get to it. Let's see here. Let me move this over. All right, there we go. What's up? Good evening, everybody. Good evening. What's up, Roller Warrior? Yes, the bread is ready to be made. Let's bake it. All right. So, without any delay, we're gonna go ahead and get right into just a brief recap of the weekend and the news. And we're also, of course, going to go ahead and look at the economic data going into this week, some stocks that I'm watching, major ETFs, earnings, and then, of course, you guys' chart requests. So, good evening. What's up, everybody? So let's see. And I am going to be taking notes as neatly as humanly possible, which is not saying much for me. And I will try to post a picture of my notes. That way you guys can just see what I'm writing down in the chat. And that's only if it passed, if it's comprehensible. So, all right, guys, let's go ahead and let's get to it. So right off the bat, let's see here. So far, I'm just gonna recap this weekend's crypto movements because we had some Ethereum killers on the move. They had some of the greatest weekends or greatest moves this week in a large cap crypto. Solana had a momentum rise, adding about 29%. This was joined by the hit by ADA and BNB. So those were kind of interesting to see. I do believe that we could see some crypto movement going into this next week. You guys might actually see behind me, I'm actually watching Bitcoin on the screen behind me. Yeah, if you guys want, I'm on YouTube right now. The link is in the bio, and I'll take your guys' chart request and all that good stuff. So going into this next week, you guys can see I already have the economic calendar up here. Monday looks to be a little bit of a pass as far as pending home sales, relatively low impact. Now we're still going to be digesting the week ahead, or the data that has come in from the Jackson Symposium, and taking a look at how that may affect the market going into the future. But then as we step into the 31st, we have consumer confidence. Now that's just a little piece of data, but it is relatively high impact. But as we kind of move into the week, September, we are now hitting major data. And I honestly think that we could linger the first 3 days of the week and then finally make a move to the downside if it happens, potentially with this data coming in. So But that's important to remember. I am writing this down right now, guys. That economic data is low as far as the impact. So I put impact economic data. So that's a good thing as far as a potential pop up. And we're going to look at the major ETFs here and see what room we have to potentially run to the upside. But before we do so, let's see here real quick. Stock twits, where you at? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and take a quick peek at our earnings going into this week. Just highlighting a few names. Of course, these are worth writing down. So I'm gonna go ahead and write a few that I will be watching in particular. Earnings this week. So we have Lee Auto. Of course, this is still um, a part of the Chinese stocks that has FUD ahead of it, behind it, all around it. So taking a bet on a Chinese stock in the climate that we're in right now poses risk, at least for long-term holds. Whenever you buy a share of one of these Chinese companies, you do not actually own shares. Zoom, we have Zoom this weekend. Cloudera, Stone Co is actually one to keep an eye on. I actually really like these guys, but we're gonna look at Zoom. Definitely one to take a peek at. I'm gonna stay away from Lee, but I do think that Cloudera is worth taking a look at. And we'll take a look at the charts probably tomorrow, like as we go into the week. And honestly, that's the kind of momentum that I want to see. A lot of the times after earnings on a major stock, it's worth monitoring the price action in order to see whether or not you have a good swing, because if it doesn't go down, inevitably it will go up. Especially if it's a good company, fundamentally. If you have a fundamental good company, then you know. Tuesday we have CrowdStrike, of course. That is Nancy Pelosi's, the stock market wife. She is thoughts on game. If you guys want, you guys can hop in. The link is in the bio for the YouTube. You guys are more than welcome to hop in there. Uh, Meat Barn. Hello, Meat Barn. What a name on YouTube. That's never heard that before. Uh, Uh, you guys can hit the link in the bio. I'm taking your guys' chart requests here relatively soon. All right, so we have CrowdStrike. ORPH is actually one that keeps coming up in ads for a stock that could potentially go up 500%. So I don't know what's up with that one, but I always just like setting alerts on speculative stocks like that. Umbrella, the only thing I can think is Rihanna. I've actually never looked into this company, but they have earnings as well. I do know that we played them last year. So Wednesday we have Chewy, AI, ChargePoint. Um, those are all that ones that I like to kind of watch. Chewy actually could potentially have good movement here. I'm going to be watching that one. C3AI, one that one of our members, Mobocop, he keeps a tight eye on this one, and we've tracked this one out of a falling wedge. So I'm curious to see, since it's been driven so low, if it could potentially see some new highs. We also have Smith and Wesson brands coming up this weekend on Wednesday as well. DocuSign coming on Thursday. That one's always a good one to keep an eye on as well, especially in the climate that we're in now. And then, of course, I don't even know who this is, but it's NBTX is reporting on Friday. So relatively unexciting earnings weeks. We have a little bit of fire here towards the beginning of the week, and then towards the end of the week, we lose a little bit of that gas, which goes a lot right along with the economic data that can potentially come towards the end of the week. Maybe that's another added wet, damp blanket. Maybe not the best metaphor. All right. So besides that, looking back on this last week, we were up on the S&P about 1.33%, the NASDAQ 2.39%, the Russell up 4.98% on the week, Dow up 0.84%. So the Russell really seeing the most momentum. Of course, we've had a lot of small caps running, so that definitely had a lot to do with it. So also just time out, of course, from the stream. Um, Anybody in the South, anybody with family in the southern states, especially Louisiana, my thoughts are with you guys. Um, it's definitely an intense and dangerous hurricane, as quoted. So hopefully you guys are staying safe if you are around that area, or you've evacuated and are somewhere warm and dry. So anyway, so back to stocks. We, somebody in the chat mentioned something about oil, some of the production that we had. Let's see. He said they stopped production in the oil yesterday of the Gulf, and they're expecting heavy damage during. Gonna invest in oil. Gonna look for an entry tomorrow, so might be something to keep an eye on. So, let's see. All right. So one thing that I wanted to go over really quick, we all know Sava. I want to go over this article really quick, and then we're going to go ahead and move on to our major ETFs. So Cassava has been called out, and we've seen some major volatility in the stock. This summer, the FDA approved the first Alzheimer drug in nearly 2 decades. However, its approval came with a controversy rather than cheer. Scientists and doctors echoed concerns about Aduhelm. The FDA ultimately barreled ahead to approve the drug, and it came with one big condition: the drug maker Biogen would have to conduct more studies to prove efficacy. However, in the meantime, they can sell Aduhelm, sorry. And from 5.8 million Americans with Alzheimer's disease, that drug will come with a steep price, $56,000 per person per year. In effect, patients may be paying for a drug that doesn't work, but patients, doctors, and families have been left with a few options. There are a few diseases to treat or slow the progression of neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's. The company that trial drugs in this space seldom succeed, but when they do, they obviously win big. This is one of the reasons investors have thrown cash at the lesser known biotech called Cassava Sciences. And Cyba has become one of the most optimistic trades for investors because it's trialing a drug for Alzheimer's disease called Simfilm. Sorry, that was like some office sketch. A syphilis that wasn't even close. The drug label study reportedly showed that it stopped and progression of the disease. So that's pretty monumental claim right there. But this week, Sava plunged 44.9%. A citizen petition filed by the New York alleges that Cassava used data manipulation and biomedical image manipulation in prior studies. The company deflected, indicating that its data was prepared by a third party. The third party ultimately declined the claims. At this point, the FDA has not commented on whether or not it will halt the company's ongoing late-stage study. However, it echoes a very real FUD in the space. So, of course, we'll be watching Saba as we go into this week. Hurricane play, oil. Ha 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 ha. Okay. All right. So again, we kind of talked about the economic calendar going into this week and the earnings as well. So let's go ahead and dive into our major ETFs, and I'll try to make this relatively quick before I move on from that. All right. Oh my goodness. I hope you guys are okay. All right. By the way, the link is in the bio. I'm on YouTube right now if you guys have any chart requests. Okay, so we got SPY. DKNG might run this week. Friday, you gave 3 plays for Microsoft. Yes, I am absolutely going to go over the swings for this week. All right. So, SPY. Here it is. I have a lot of people, I've seen a lot of people who have this, right? And I'm pretty sure every single one of them, and this is what's called confirmation bias, right? So the massive wedge that you guys seen a lot of people draw I think is unfortunately a byproduct of conformational bias. So one of the dangers with technical analysis is that you can see things that aren't there, right? Or you'll draw lines where they don't belong because you think that you see something like this. You see a wick here, but really, if you the further that you inspect this setup, the more that you can rest assured that that's probably not a resistance. Now, if we were to possibly go and look at a more stable and respected resistance, we would find ourselves right around here. So even if we went here and avoided the correction, which again could be a byproduct of that conformational bias, but what we like to do in situations like this is find channels. Channels are far more reliable than year-long wedges. I can promise you that. And so in this case, I see just to keep it simple, even if I kept it here, I can tell that SPY still has just a little bit more room to run. Now, one of the things I like to do when we're in price exploration mode is sometimes throw up those pivot points, right? Those are going to give me an idea of where we could possibly head. So when I threw up my pivot point, what did I find? I found that this pivot point lined up perfectly with my resistance. That gives me an extra inclination that 554 between now and Wednesday is a potential target for SPY, getting investors all amped up that potentially the market might be able to bypass all of the stuff coming forward. But in actuality, this is a low volume run up. And I ultimately suspect that if we don't pull back or chop in range at this level for SPY, then more than likely the data that comes at the end of the week could be a catalyst that would reject us off of 554. So my target for SPY, and I'm going to go ahead and write this one down as well, is going to be I'm saying 554, major bull there. 454, and currently we're sitting around 450, so it's a $4 move to the upside, and that could happen between now and Wednesday based on the reprieve or the lack of data, right? So no news is good news, especially with the stock market is concerned. So we have decent amount of earnings going into Monday, and we also have that pivot point resistance set up, so it kind of looks like the timing. I don't try and time the market, but sometimes I do. But no, I mean, when things line up the way that they do, and honestly, I've stopped doubting myself when I see price targets and such like this. So especially with the setup with the week, a lot of times the chart will set up the news. So SPY 554 at a minimum. What do I think of Dare Biosciences? I am BBIG. Pub M is so shorted. They did a DCF and DD and got 50. Nice, you did DCF on that one. $50 per share. Wow. Uh, I'd love to hear more about that. Uh, okay. Limited is so cheap right now. I bought the dip and sold high on some money. What's an example of a year-long wedge as opposed to a channel? That's a great question. Let me show you. I'll break off really quickly and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so a lot of people know about this chart. And like I said, something that's a year-long wedge can take, it more than likely will break that pattern. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes people see a head and shoulders on the weekly, and like granted, here's the thing, like if it's a good fundamentally sound company, and I've seen this happen before, right? People will be playing Apple or Microsoft or something, and it goes and it breaks support. And then guess what happens? They just buy the dip where everyone sells because all retail sees, and you can see that happening here on Dollar Tree, right? You dip that below, you hit a major moving average, and you go right back into the pattern, respecting it again. So this would be a year-long rising wedge that eventually, as you can tell, holy dog, every time I see this chart, look at this. why am I not playing Dollar Tree more often? I've crushed Dollar Tree up and down, and it's actually insane because I if I have this. So take a look at this. Okay, wow. All right, so I'll just do this. I drew this. When did I draw that? November 15th is when I first drew this. I was a little bit off on my top resistance, but that is not too far off. If I would have just, and this was a speculative, of course, because it was only around here, but right pulling that up, this was ultimately pre-programmed into the stock, it felt like. Um, you don't know how to read charts. Thank you for your contribution. I love you. Anyway, so let's go to all right, so we're at SPY. Uh so we got the price target on SPY. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the cues. Now, of course, the one thing to remember, we're dealing with low volume run-ups. Those are never good. Do I think SPRT can continue? I would honestly stay away. If you did the math on that one, the amount of shares covered, you would ultimately have hit around $58 or $48, and that price target has come and gone. So anything after this is honestly just retail getting smoked. So not a problem. I'm glad that was easy to understand. It's so weird. Let me save this, guys. Let me follow him. Anyway, you guys can hop on the YouTube. Link is in the bio. Okay. So as far as the cues are concerned, this one it was super duper well respected, and we talked about the further that we pull back from that top resistance, it doesn't always mean that we've seen a rejection, and I think that we can tell that this isn't some type of major rejection. So as far as the cues are concerned, I'm not 100% sure that we're going to climb up above this resistance and use it as support. But if you go down to this 4 hour time frame, and you look at this deviation or the standard deviation channel that I have set up on the cues, it becomes very clear that we are very, very crowded. And so, if anything, a pullback around 374.36, back to that HMA, even potentially to its 20-day EMA, which is where it stays, at least on the 4 hour is concerned. The 20 EMA is where the cues remain bullish. And a lot of the times when you get the 9 over the 20, the cues will take off to the upside. And that's unique to the cues in this case. Chris, I told you have a Discord. Are you in there? If you are, then we need to make sure that we set a schedule this week to meet. I don't think we've met yet, so I'll do that one just a second. I am on YouTube Live, so I'm not really particular on um I guess exposing your insecurities on my channel, but if you give me just a moment, I will take a look at it. Okay, so we have QQQ tight up against this resistance, guys. What we're going to be watching for, and you guys can tell I drew this on Friday. This is a rising wedge, perfect example on the 5 minute, and we do in fact get that smaller time frame rejection. And so I imagine at a minimum, I'm looking at 375.67. I'm setting an alert there, and I'm going to watch this thing in pre-market to see whether or not we're going to see any continuation. Because what could happen, and very will likely will, is if we stay or remain bullish, we'll pull back to that 200-day EMA here, 375.18, and then potentially bounce back up to that resistance. But we'll be watching this. All of this is going to be reliant, of course, on market sentiment and volume. So we only make money by reacting to the market, not by hoping that certain things occur. And you have to excuse me, guys. People on YouTube, I have some people being funny. Yeah, for sure. We're gonna meet with people for sure. Next week. Sorry guys, just making sure I got your messages. Um all right, so we got the cues. We have the Dow. All right, guys, this one is a huge mess. Um so let's go here. I've kind of got this one tracked, at least for the most part, inside of this channel underneath this HMA. It does look like we potentially could either sit a little bit flatter, kind of like we've behaved. The Dow behaves very cyclically in a way where, like, you can see that when it hits a major resistance, if it doesn't end up rejecting that or showing some type of major rejection, it'll usually continue to trend to the upside. So I'm thinking that the Dow, just like Qs and SPY, could see a higher high. And right now I've got 30. I don't want to say 3,600 because that's way out of bounds. But for me, I've got let's see, 358.50 just as a that's where my resistance is at, and that's only if we can break this top channel around 355.75. So that's where I'm watching the Dow. And then, like I said, guys, I think that with the data, that the lack of data that we have, I think that we could potentially midterm run up, tap resistance, and then the data comes in Thursday, Friday, and we could potentially be looking at the downside. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, dude. I'll hang it up on my wall. That's awesome. Okay. If you guys have any charts you want me to take a look at, just hop on the YouTube. Okay, so we got the Dow. Let's look at the IWM. This one, we talked about this. This was on the money, and except for I didn't see this giant big green cucumber coming out of nowhere. Here's my speculations here. Past Friday's close, right? Or Friday's high. Um, it's pretty simple. I have 229 for IWM. I think at that point it's going to be really, really important to start evaluating volume. Because at this point, I think that we'll, with the bounce we did see off of support, we either go and revisit 230s with a quickness, and you'll see that this whole ribbon indicator here is just kind of drifting back into that price range. So if you actually draw, and this is kind of how I use those moving averages, right? So let's say I draw this top resistance. Now look at where my whole ribbon indicator is, right? This whole ribbon is kind of curving around, and this is just me utilizing, because with anything you look for levels of confirmation, right? And so whenever you have a major moving average or a whole ribbon indicator here that uses two major moving averages line up with that resistance, it can kind of give you that extra, okay, that's definitely a resistance. And you'll find that with chart patterns as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and SPYG. I can do that. Yeah, if you guys are just tuning into the YouTube, I have already gone over the SPY setup. Okay. I can look over that one, yeah, for sure. Is this the European SPYG? Oh, I put SPYQ. Oops. I was like, what? There we go. So this one's pretty similar to that previous chart that I was looking at. So that's kind of what I see. Really, really clean channel. So this is a hand-drawn like standard deviation channel, but that's about what I would suspect. So a pullback, right? A controlled, you would see it pull back at, and it's at resistance, right? So honestly, I mean, like, we could be primed for a rejection. It did end up closing the day with a rising wedge. just on that 5 minute time frame. So it's just a matter of whether it breaks 66.85, then you might see a retest of that same breakout level at 66.50. So and again, evaluating market sentiment tomorrow morning is going to be number one, crucial. It depends on what type of play I'm taking. Nice. Yeah, please do, man. All right. I will go ahead if you guys want. I'm gonna go over our swings. So what am I seeing on Lemonade? I'll show you. So Lemonade is hot on my watch list this week. And I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. So just as far as a simple support, right? So we did bounce previously on Lemonade around the $60 level. Now we didn't quite make it to the $60 level this time, but going and tracking this setup here, it does appear that we are receiving or are seeing a potential reversal pattern. So rather than going and bouncing, and this was definitely an earnings correction. So a lot of times it'll break a support and then bounce right back up above it. So you can see that the first initial bounce is off of the very same level of 60. Looks like we got 67, that $67 level. So looking at this pattern on the daily, we have a falling wedge. A lot of the times when you see a wedge like this, you wait for a nice break in downtrend. Now, what I like to see is usually some type of resistance above us. And you can see that 20-day moving average just starting to leave. Now, look at how well just lined up it was with this top resistance channel, right? What is thank me later, boys? What do you thank me later, boys? This is weird, dude. If you're not gonna like, yeah, I'm gonna have to just get you out of here. There we go. So the trigger point for me, right, is $77. And we actually took, I believe, we have the $78 call for September 3rd, and that was a swing trade going into this week. One of the reasons I took this is because of the really bullish candle bounce off of its 9-day moving average, right? And we're going up to meet that $77 level. Now, past that $77 level, the first initial level I see is $80. Now, if you guys haven't played Lemonade with me before, even a simple support bounce can give you a $3, $4, $5 move. You can see just in this candle here, we cruise from $89 all the way to $99. There's a lot of eager dip buyers on Lemonade. So for me, looking at previous breaks of support, previous breaks of downtrend for Lemonade, once it finally gets that break and downtrend, it really, really can run. So I'm just looking at a simple target of 84 flat, and scalping that one on the way. So I have that September 3rd. And I'm not, if we end up gapping up, I'll probably go ahead and take profit. And if I like a re-entry, I will take that $85 or $84 strike 2 weeks out. And if any other movement occurs, I will take positions on the underside with shorter expiration contracts to just scalp Lemonade, because there is a lot of momentum when it breaks downtrend. So Lemonade is hot on my watch list. If you guys want to, you can go to the hourly time frame and you can go ahead and set some levels with me. I'm going to go ahead and set one right here. That's going to be at the 76.50 level. And let me correct myself in this case. It's not a level, it's a zone. So in this case, it's going to be the zone basically from 77 to 74.50. So that 50 cents range is where we're going to want to see Lemonade break past. And so I'm going to leave these lines here and I'm going to set alert on each one of them. And that's one of the awesome things about TradingView, is that you can utilize those each and every drawing setup that you make in order to set alert on them. It's that way you can set levels and not miss anything. What is it? Can I look at GA and B? Yeah, for sure. Um, Starbucks. Yeah, if you guys are curious, just I'm on YouTube right now. The link is in my bio, and I'll take your chart request there. You'll be able to see my screen and stuff. So, um, so one second, I got to screenshot that name right there. Okay. All right. So Microsoft is another one that we have set up here. Now, this one was a bit of a riskier swing, I will admit. One that I usually would kind of wait for a little bit earlier confirmation, but the contracts weren't terrible. And so here's what we're gonna do. If we end up gapping down next week, it's pretty simple for me. I will very quickly pull the trigger on a downside position and cut my losses, whatever they may be. Now, something substantial happens and I end up losing on this trade in particular due to the contract worth. I'm not going to be terribly upset about it. And also, and not to mention, I'm 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 hedged. So what we did is we actually signaled eliminate $78 call for September 3rd, a Microsoft 305 call for September 3rd, and a QQQ 374 put for August 30th as a hedge for a potential gap down. Because what's going to happen if we gap down on the Qs, I'll take profit on the put, let the stock fill its gap if the gap is moderate, cut, evaluate whether we're going to fill that gap and keep going or reject that gap and continue to the downside. Is he still in there? How is he still in there? Okay. Alrighty. Just one second. All right. So anyway, from Microsoft, my logic here, as far as why I decided to take this swing, this bounce here off of that two. Actually, my target, y'all, was at least last week for this downside was literally 296. That's the target that I gave everyone, and I didn't expect it to bounce immediately off of that. I was looking at this breakout, right? This previous really strong breakout. So if we do end up retesting the very same resistance that we rejected, we could see 305, 307. And I think with the little space and data that we have, that is not unlike or out of the realm of possibilities. Now, even if it ends up breaking downtrend, I'm looking at the target of 302. At 302, I'll trim a contract. I'll see whether it has volume for continuation, watch the tape, etc., etc. Um, All right. So Microsoft, um, thank you. I appreciate you. When did I enter Microsoft? Right towards the end of the day. You're good. All right. Okay. So let's go ahead and get your guys' chart request. So let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and zoom up here. Um, all right. So and we'll go over more tomorrow morning. As far as plays and setups that we see, and this is going to be obviously based off of momentum, news, etc., etc. So, LVS is one of the first ones that we have on our request from Fredo on YouTube. Oh shit, did I do that right? Yeah, I did. Opticy, can you highlight the next one for me? I don't know if are you allowed, can you do that? I made you a moderator, so you should be able to do that. But I think SPRT will continue. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, good evening. All right, so SPRT. Oh shit! I thought I had two screens up. All right, so daily time frame. Oof. Let's go step out a little bit. Let's clean this up. So that's definitely a major support bounce there. That's highly speculative, but I do see these wicks as signs of respect in that case. But even if I wanted to bring it down, ooh, come back there. Okay. Well, right off the bat, with LVS, this weekly candle here speaks volumes as far as whether or not you're going to get a bounce or not. You do in the week with relatively high volume. And again, you're bouncing off that 3650 level, which has been such a trampoline type level. So anytime that I'm looking at a bounce or a potential break in downtrend, right? And we could speculatively draw a potential downtrend here. Just using that right there, that could be a potential downtrend because you have fallen really hard. Um, so anytime that I'm looking for a bounce, one of the key trigger points for me is going to be my bullish moving average, which is the 9-day moving average. And you're going to want to see that kind of curl up and react to that price action. If you go down here to the daily, you'll see that is already occurring. Really strong bounces, 3 continuous gap ups, one after another. And for me anyway, I know that there is more sentiment, positive sentiment going into these sports betting, and especially with a lot of the celebrity fights. Got Dingus fighting Tyrone Woodley right now. I don't know. Is he dead yet? Is he fight? Are they fighting? Are they done fighting? Someone tell me. DM me the winner. Good afternoon, Robert. Where are you at? Lemonade. I just went over. I just went over Lemonade. If you want to zoom back. Sorry about that. Okay. Um, so anyway, for Las Vegas Sands, and even if you want to throw up your pivot points here, I was just about to say, perfect. This is why I look for these signs of continuation. Okay, so right here, the pivot point on the daily is at $46, right? That's right above that 20 EMA at 46.50. And what do I say? It's usually not just a line, it's a zone. So the 50-cent zone starting at 45.50, ending at $46, that's where we're going to want to see Las Vegas Sands. And when it does hit that pivot point, I think it's worth one setting an alarm or an alarm alert here at that level. But secondly, even a simple break in downtrend. Now, what I like to do is kind of go back and pretend like I can't see that level, right? I can't see this price action here. So one thing to keep in mind is that this was a previous support, right? Out of a channel that was falling, regardless of how it fell, coming out of a channel, and this channel support. So whenever you're bouncing back up, a lot of times you're going to retest that previous dynamic support. So the pivot point lined up with that dynamic support makes a whole lot of sense. So going into this next week, I would like to see not only above 46, but into that 47 and $48 range in order to, and this is the good thing about this setup, is if it gets back above this support, it can maintain the same pattern and potentially go for that resistance, which is all the way around the 50. It depends on the timing and the catalyst, but you do have a strong bounce off support. You could look for a continuation. So, um, all right. So, Fredo, I appreciate that. I'm glad I've inspired someone. um, all right. So SPRT, that one's a big question right here. The support.com. Okay. So again, I think at some point, you can't really, you can chart things. You can speculate certain bounce levels, but the fact of the matter is you had a speculative play, right? Or you had a certain amount of shares that had to be covered, shorts that had to be covered at a certain time, and that has occurred. People took advantage of it. And if you did look at the math, right, if you mathematically sorted out this, you would have seen support if it took its time around $50, right? Support hit, 59.69, right? So in my opinion, does support.com have a fundamental evaluation of $60+? I don't know. Probably not. But at the same time, when you have something like that, you're either in on time or you're late. And so at this point, if you're looking to get into support, you want to wait for basically it to die down and kind of level out again. So at this point, the reshorting can commence again. So it's important to be careful. I can't recommend that. I'm on YouTube right now. Tell them to come through. Bands, yay. For yay. I'll teach them. My weekend was good, man. Bands. Yeah, I got you. Okay. All right. What do we got left? Chart requests. You guys sending those in? GAMB. If I skip you or miss you, make sure to just type it in. Okay. Um. All right. So what was the news on this one? Saying it received a temporary supplier license to provide marketing services for licensed operators in the state. Okay, so they're basically looking to make money off of advertising gambling. Okay, so when you have a stock that's ran up from $6 to 15 plus $14, what you want to do is you want to look for a pullback like this, right? Now, if you want to go down here, you could go to the 15-minute. Now, what you want to look for is, and what are the a lot of the times what I look for is where is the most respect garnished from our moving averages, right? So here on the 15-minute, you can see mathematical bounces nearly off of this 20 EMA, right? And you can see that it's riding the 20 EMA here. You get a bounce here. And you also, when you make those new highs, you flush out and round up, and then you end up making new highs. That's what you're wanting to look for. Now, 1385, somewhere in there, you may see a bounce. If you don't get a bounce in that range, then it's highly likely. And again, looking at this, you could see the 1285 range, and that's using this 9-day moving average as a retest. And again, there is respect to be had on that as well. I just don't like playing stocks that have already ran like this. So my recommendation is if you're playing anything that's already ran up 100+%, 200, 300, 400+%, you're gambling. No pun intended. But again, when it's made new highs like this, there's not much I can't chart much. Like I can't sit here and pretend like my chart's gonna make something look better. It's at this point, it's a matter of reacting to price action, the tape, etc., etc. Volume. Okay. Okay. Um, if you guys need me, if and also those of you on YouTube or any platform, if I ever explain something and it goes over your head, uh, feel free to DM me right about it or message and ask me to go a little bit more in depth. Courses aside, information aside, reading on your own aside, the number one way to learn is to ask questions when the question arises, right? A lot of the times we forget the questions that we had when we have them, or we're in a place where we don't remember to ask them, or it may not become an issue, right? For another 2 months, you may not have that question because it doesn't come up. And then all of a sudden it comes up again because you've lost money or ask questions. There is no dumb questions at all. This is the stock market. Everybody's learning. So, all right. So let's go ahead and root, right? And I'm sorry if I can't give you a better explanation on gambling, but it's kind of ripping. So you're in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Can you get me some paper? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Um, okay. All right, so let's take a look at root here. Let's get to the root of the problem. I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm sorry. All right. One, I don't know what this is. Two, they need to figure out whatever they got going on, dude, because this does not look good for the boys. So this is this is about what I can speculate, right? If I'm speculating even further, I can I can perhaps kind of squeeze out this falling wedge, right? It might not be a bad company. It actually, I don't know if we, I think at this point, and this is my best advice to myself if I was looking at this chart, or to somebody who may be looking at this chart, is or just a perspective, is when you see the stock that's fallen this low, it's time to go look at the real thick of it. Like go look at do a proper DCF, or look at the analyst price targets, go read articles, go look into the things that are actually going to cause this stock to move, and go look at, like, looking at the fundamentals at this point, and then looking at a potential massive reversal pattern on a daily time frame. Those, and this is a bullish reversal pattern, right? There hasn't been really any bullishness anywhere, but, and I'm past that $7 mark, and then again past the 850 mark, this thing could actually start to see some movement. And if it's a good company, you would want to buy it down at these levels, right? So that's on, outside of what I can do right now on live. But if you have time to kind of, maybe if you're in the Discord or not, bring that up, or bring some of that information to the table, then we can kind of look at it at the chart, look at the chart and the information, and kind of dive into it that way. But I'm curious myself, so I may end up pulling up, and I may have to ask Atlas to dig into it too. Um, uh, BA definitely could see some movement this week. Yeah, we'll keep it on watch. So with Root, honestly, there's a couple different levels. This one might be a good one to throw some pivot points on. I love when this happens. Yeah. So let's see. So this is awesome. I love when I see made. So look where our resistance is at. 860. Where is our downtrend at? Right there around 860. That is exactly what I want to see. So here's what you can do. Lower time frame downtrend, right? Looks like you got a break. So that's good for shorter time frame. What you want to see is the first trip is up to 765, and then ultimately that price target of 850. So, and then from there you want to evaluate whether or not you're going to get a breakout. But it looks good. I am a beginner trader. Any tips? Ask a ton of questions. A ton of questions. Absorb it. If you see anybody live on anything and you have a chance to ask them questions about something that sparks your interest, ask it and get the answers to the questions that you can, because the number one thing with learning is, one, teaching is one of the best ways to learn. So once you learn something, if you feel confident in what you've learned, even if it's the most basic of information, take the opportunity to teach someone else, and that will not only help you, but it will become more fluid in your mind, and really concrete that into your head. So, but anyway, root looks potentially pretty good. Baba. Oh my gosh. What happened to you, Baba? It's just a chart full of morning stars. Someone yucked up. Oh no, what I do? Yeah, we don't want to do that. What's the meaning of live? Oh, you meant market questions? Maybe it's whatever it's meant to. I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so this is a liquid hot garbage right now. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I know there's probably a lot of you that are bullish on Chinese stocks or bullish on BABA. It is huge. That's great. I just feel and I'll miss the dip, but I'll catch it if it runs, if things get cleared up. But at the moment, with everything going on with BABA and our Chinese stocks in general, my sentiment remains bearish. And I think that every time we go and retest major moving averages, which I think on BABA, at the most, if you end up bouncing here, which you do see, you are. So what has happened is you've fallen to a new low right around that. It looks like you've fallen all the way to 151, right? And I think I expressed my bearishness on this. So anytime you go and you retest, and this goes for the uptrend or the downtrend, but you go and retest one of your moving averages, like especially your 9-day moving average, which is well respected on this daily time frame. You get a rejection there, you're normally going to go head back down to that low. So even if it's that low is just as simply, and you already have tapped it, you've hit the 158.23. So at that point, you would be performing a wick fill all the way to 152.50. And then from there, it's probably best that you take a step out to the weekly and start taking a peek at price zones that we could potentially see. And in fact, you have a long-legged doji here, right? And more bearish than bullish, but you've got a standstill happening at this level of 159. So it is not outside of the realm of possibilities to see. And now that I'm looking at it on the weekly, this actually could be where you might see your next bounce. You have, and I think I've talked about this quite often. So upside or downside, if you're using your EMAs and you've taken off and gone too far away from them. Now this starts to get a little bit murkier or more sludge like when you are on the weekly time frame, right? So with Baba, there's a good possibility because our moving averages are lagging behind so hard. Um, a retest, right? So looking at this support, it's not outside of the realm of possibility to see a simple test of resistance, right? Now you've already seen three. Now that's usually for the most part it, but you're only at your second support bounce if we're using this support here. So if we end up going up for one last touch, hopefully, right? Hopefully we would see some sort of FUD clearing news that would allow Chinese stocks to move back up. And if they do, trust me, I'll be there and I'll catch the upside. But other than that, at this point, I would suspect just a simple retest of the 9-day moving average on the daily. So maybe even I don't want to go so far as to say the 190s, but I'd say 185 is a decent target to the upside, just using relative momentum that we've seen previously in this downtrend. So something like this, right? So we would be looking for a wick fill all the way to 173. That's more than likely you'd see. You'd like to finish a little bit above that. So you might see a strong bounce. And remember, like that there's people who are trying to get out of their positions on Baba. There are people who bought up at the top around 318 and now it like bill wings. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. But there's a lot of weakness, not a lot of good volume in there. I don't even know what's going on with that dude. Sim. I don't know who's Sim. Uh, with the hurricane playing, any stock plays? Oil is something to watch. Can I check out Netflix? Yeah, for sure. All right, so we got Baba, AMC. I am going to save the BBB or BBBIG charting for Monday, tomorrow morning, because honestly, it's gonna get a lot of movement. Everybody is watching it, but I already have a chart up, so I'll show you what I got. But it's not worth like digging into or anything like that, especially because it's running off of what it's running off of, which is not like anything fundamental or anything like that. So AMC, you can, same thing I was just talking about. Anytime that you move too far ahead of your daily moving averages, for the most part, you're going to see a retest. So you're retesting the 9-day moving average here on the daily. That's at $40. If you want to go here to the hourly, guys, and here's the thing. They know retail is sucked into this type of movement. So as much as you may see people playing to the upside or the downside, they're playing whatever side they're going to be able to make money on. So right now you have a little falling wedge. And by the way, what I mean by that is institutions will play, it doesn't matter. They'll pump it back up, they'll get you pumped up, and they'll pull it right back down. So in order to get a hold of that, that's what they have to do. And they try to get people to sell. Can you give your pin? Truck's too good. MLM. Yeah, if you want Atlas, no big deal, dude. I appreciate your presence, man. If you will just mini Atlas, I'm sorry. If you will send people to the link in the bio if they want any charts looked at. So okay. And Chris, we'll go ahead and look at those Wells Fargo and Bank of America. Okay. Fredo, I'm really glad that that was a good explanation. And hopefully you can see some movement in that stock. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so just go to the hourly. It looks like here on the hourly time frame, you have a little bit of a falling wedge on the hourly, little break and downtrend here. Be careful. A lot of times that can, it's a retest of a level that you broke, but a lot of times can be a trap, and can extend itself. So number one thing when playing AMC is volume, period. Watch the tape. You know what I want to do? I've been thinking about this a lot. I want to show on, I'm going to start recording what breakout tape looks like, right? And we could just make that relative. What fake out tape looks like, right? And what like slow moving like swing trade, like I want to make some type of content for you guys. I'm going to talk to some more tape gurus, because I think that there's a certain amount of volume, right? Or momentum that you'll see on the tape. And that is one of the key factors that'll leave me in a trade, right? I'll stay in the trade because I see it's got more juice. I like juice. And if I see that volume coming in and that tape speeding up as we get to those psychological numbers, right? And I see those big orders sitting up top, I know that we have a potential breakout play. I can, if you want to go ahead and, I'm not looking at root. I'm just charting people's stocks right now. I am hungry. Um, so that's kind of what I've got right now for AMC. Just oh, yawns hit me again. I think it's pretty pivotal. Obviously, $48, but you're going to want to see volume on the hourly time frame. Now, this is what I would do, is set an alert on volume, right? And do that on the 15 1 hour and maybe even like the 4 hour time frame. Maybe not the 4, maybe just leave it at that. But you want to get an idea, and I don't turn off a lot of my volume alerts, so that way when a stock gets the volume it needs to move. In fact, none of my PLTR alerts, I none of my PLTR alerts are on price levels. None of them. All of them, every time you guys hear me call out PLTR, it's because I think I have like 10 alerts set on volume on PLTR specifically. So I know the first time I get an alert at like, maybe I don't know the numbers exactly, but like 150K, I know, okay, something something's happening, I can see the price. All right, maybe that's a support bounce. And then when I start to see like that volume shoot up, okay, that's news. And I actually am able to gauge it that way. So it's the more, preparation, that you put into it. And really, even just setting alerts is huge. I can look into TIGR. If you will just type on the YouTube, I'll be able to chart it there. Okay, so we got AMC. So you do, Wells Fargo. Automatically, we're gonna start on our daily time frame. Wow, that's crazy. I always remember that. So I mean, I want to call it a cup and handle. And I'm sure that's what everybody is probably looking at. That's usually when I start to worry the most, um, especially with setups like this. So obviously, you've got a nice cup-like pattern here. Come over here. There you go. Right. So rounded bottom here. Yeah, link is should be in the bio. Um, and then let's go here. All right, so this is definitely a support. Like absolutely. So what I think is happening here now, this is where things get a little murky again. So you have a breaking downtrend, right? You get a nice breaking uptrend, and you kind of have, and I know that I'm drawing like a ton of lines, right? There, when you're down on this hourly time frame, there's always going to be support levels on the hourly, right? Hourly trend on the 5, maybe a trend on the hourly, and maybe even a trend on the daily. And that's why it's so important, even if you're scalping, to know where you're at on the chart and how much room is allotted. Never think because you only scalp things that you don't need to chart dailies. In fact, the more that you know, the better you're going to be prepared. If you know that you have a daily gap right here on Wells Fargo that begins at $50 and ends at $50.34 or 40 cents, right? You know that more than likely Wells Fargo is going to, go through and push through that gap. Um, who would you say is the best trader you know besides me? Georgie and Atlas and all of the admins in the group. That's why they're part of the group. There's other traders here on this platform who are awesome, who have different styles and stuff like that. Um, Pre-market videos are on Discord or YouTube. They're on YouTube. Yeah, I'll get there. What is the best time frames for finding supply and demand zones? I believe the daily or even the 4 hour can be a good. I think the 4 hour probably be. I think Atlas likely agree with that one too. Okay. I gotta go see you tomorrow pre-market on Discord. Got you. What happens if your stock gets delisted? Do you lose all your money? Pretty much. Netflix's main watch. Tyler, I did not leave TradeStation. I just stomped my foot long enough for them to do what I wanted them to. They're a damn brokerage, all right, and they you can't do that to me. So I just you know I hate to say it. Sometimes when you bitch on Twitter, the company I bitched on Twitter about an Oreo and the company offered to send me Oreos. Like we live in a wild world. Wild world. So uh but I'll stay on there for now. Okay. Anyway, so sorry about so LVS here. It looks like to me, Chris, you could see it maybe one more pullback to 49.65. You just want to hang on to this support line, right? So you want to stay right here. What you got going on is you have this resistance here. Okay. Then right above you, you have a gap. Now this gap starts right here at $50 and it's likely going to end at $50.35. That's not a big gap. But if you head to that previous target or that previous high would have you around 40 or 51.25. So, and past that, like I said, you have a gap here at 50. Oh, wow. So, not to mention that, if you can get past this 51.35 mark, right? 51.35, you have a gap here on the daily, right? Starting at 51 or $50.71 and ending at $52. So BTC actually looks pretty good. All right, and now let's go ahead and I think some good places to set alerts on this one. Again, you can probably set an alert right there, and that's at 49.88 or 49.85. Another one at 50 bucks, of course. I think another one right at the edge of the gap fill, 50.30. So you know before you hit that. And then if you wanted, you could even set one at 50.50. So, but you got your support, you got your gap, you got your targets. You just need the juice. We'll see if financials run. Ooh, that's ugly. You right back there? What you doing? Art? Arting. Peyton, you'll say hi to the top. All right. Yeah, I know. All right. Let's see. Yeah, you should see some movement on oil stocks. Uh, so Bank of America, similar setup. In fact, this could be labeled as a inverse head and shoulders, Chris. So let's go ahead, and I think it's okay to get rid of these levels, which have already very clearly been broken. Um, I wouldn't be surprised. And with the data that came out, I think Atlas actually mentioned something about the Jackson Symposium. Um, some things that were said that are going to cause people to potentially uh, move into the banks, so or into financial sectors. Real quick, let me delete those. So you have an inverse head and shoulders here. You've already rejected that 42.81. I think right above you, right? You have that previous high of 43.58. Now this is only if you see the same movement from what was it? Wells Fargo. So if you go out here to the weekly, right? You don't have much of a cup and handle. But I would say that if you do, and I'm looking here, you have one of two possibilities, right? you either pull back and continue to consolidate in this range here, or you move past this high and you move into the $45 range for Bank of America. And that would just be my first psychological target. But even just looking at this zone here, that 47 to $45 mark is strong. So that's where I would watch Bank of America. So Exvonians, if you look above you, man, there is about 15 other people, maybe no, there's a lot more other people who asked before you. If I could please look at their chart. So I apologize. A lot of charting and trading is patience. So this is a good opportunity. I apologize though that I couldn't rush to yours. I will look at it in just a minute though, regardless that you've tried to rush me. Anyway. You show me respect and we respect you. That's simple. Okay. So we have Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Thank you guys for your patience, everybody. You guys always exhibit the best patience. And I know that I ramble and I go on, but just trying to do my best to be thorough and give you guys good information. All right. So we see BA, ZON, ZON. All right, so we've actually talked about this one, and it's curious because when you look at here on the weekly, uh, ever since we've broken this downtrend, right? And I haven't seen anybody post this downtrend, but ever since we've broken this downtrend, we've now used this same downtrend as our support, right? And we'll go ahead and look deeper into that too. So let's look at the daily. So on the daily, and I know there's probably a lot of people who are very bullish on BA. And here's the thing. I think if I was to even just draw a little support here, we we are more than likely going to see this top resistance. That top resistance is 233, right? 233, even potentially 235. And this is a dynamic resistance or downtrend, right? That's where I would suspect that we would run into if we break up to the upside. But that's a big if, because if you look at this setup right now, it absolutely needs to make, and you see there is strength here in this candle, but it absolutely needs to make a jump back up into the I would say 225 226 range. If you can break over that range, that middle, and that would actually split that pattern kind of dead center. And I've talked about that line, guys. You guys, it's standard deviation channel if you want to call it that. But normally inside of any type of pattern, you can divide that pattern in half, and I'll highlight it with this line here. I'll just use the yellow line. So you'll notice that when I draw this support, this splits that pattern in half, right? So that's normally what I'm looking for when I'm looking for, because what I want to see is I want to see the stock up against resistance, not up against downtrend. So in this case, I would suspect that if we can break above 233, 235, that we would possibly see BA break downtrend. And given the climate that we're in now, we have to ask ourselves, is that a probability? And then look at the price action and see if that confirms it. So let's see here. Root is an insurance holding company. Chinese stocks are getting killed because the Chinese. What happens if it's okay. Sorry, I'm just reading. Um, when do those shorts have to cover on PubM? Would you use the 15-minute chart for swing trading? What chart would you use for trading? Fredo, what in what sense? I mean, for the 15-minute, as I may use the 15-minute for confirmation on a close, but for the most part, I'm more interested for I would like to see an hourly candle close above VWAP and the 9-day moving average, and that would give me a better indication for a swing. I also want to know where my downtrend is, where my targets are, and why are those my targets? Because if you ask yourself that and you can answer that, more than likely you'll be able to take a position with confidence. So I don't use automatic pattern charting. No, I don't. A lot of these are I didn't even know that was a thing. That's pretty cool though. I do that. I'm the automatic charter. Um okay, so that's kind of what I'm thinking on BA. Of course, this is another one of those situations where we got to react to volume. One thing that I will say that I do like is this. So see this first initial bounce? You do. Oh shit. Sorry about that. Yeah, if you want me to check out that chart, it's link is in the bio. I'll check it out on YouTube. Um, I'm closing in at the end of this list here as well. So 225 again for Boeing. 225. As you can see here, please don't try and just. I'm just warning you guys. When Boeing is clear and we start like things open up for real, and it stops screwing up every other week, you'll see that momentum. Boeing is great to scalp. But this thing fakes people out every single week. So if you know how to scalp Boeing, go for it. But until it's out of downtrend, I am not playing it for the most part. So unless something crazy happens, but otherwise I'm not playing it. Okay, so let's keep going. Netflix. So let's look at Netflix. You know, so many people call me Gar. It'd be like kind of funny if people call me a garfish or something. Better than a codfish. All right. So, what in the heck is this? So this is a wild chart, man. How long have we been doing this? Since July of last year is how long we've been doing this. Doesn't Netflix get tired of this shit? All right, so this kind of looks like it wants to go pull an Amazon move. Now, one thing that normally when you get a nice cool collected breakout from the over the 500 HMA on a daily time frame and you get all those moving averages starting to look straight up in the air and you still have a good amount of time before earnings hits, it's more than likely that you're going to go and hit, I would say, 573. So in all honesty, and Netflix, I think we were playing this last week. I will be watching Netflix, I think, at least to a minimum, with Big Stepper. For me, I think that is safe. A safe mark is 273, 275. That range there. So I'm gonna write that down. And not a lot is making it onto my watch list. I want you guys to know that I am, because I feel FUD, I feel uh particularly bearish or a sense of bearishness. I am only reaching for the most high probability plays where I can mark an entry and an exit and know that the trade is going to be worth it. If the trade's not going to be worth it, I'm not going to take it. And with Netflix, I think there's enough of a range, especially past 265, 267, that we could potentially see a leg up into that mark. And Netflix knows how to move. Anywhere past that mark, we could potentially play it into the 580s. I'm sorry if I say two, it's a dyslexia. Um, yeah, Bitcoin's going for retest of downtrend on the 5 minute. All right. Hi, Poppy. I don't know why you called me Poppy, but it felt so natural. Thanks, Jorge. Chart Poppy. All right, guys. I'm trying to speed it up, trying to catch all your requests. Thanks for your patience, guys. As always, appreciate you so much. Tesla and Disney. I like that chart, Big Step. Thank you, dude, for all the hard work you do, guys. If there's so, I'm not the only one. Obviously, you know, a lot of these guys are live in different time zones, but I'm just one of many people in this chat who is extremely talented. And a lot of the Big Stepper, Georgie, heck, I mean, they're getting better every single day, and providing so much awesome material. So if not me, them. Of course, you got OG Rolly, you know. Okay. So Tesla, they've got your ass. You're inside of a nice channel here. And I think that the more I look at this chart, the more that it kind of makes me laugh at this point because it's almost starting to look. The trading is starting to look robotic. Now, let me explain something. When I see a chart that is in an uptrend and it moves like this, that's telling me that inevitably weakness lingers here, right? And inevitably we're gonna fall out or down out of this channel. Now, one thing that I'm noting here, right, is that Netflix has broken this dynamic resistance, but a lot of the times, in order to trick investors or retail traders, when a downtrend is broken, they'll just use it as support, right? So this, if Tesla falls going into this next week and pulls back, now we have even more room to fall, right? Because the further this goes, the further it falls. And that's the nearest support that we have coming off of the high that Tesla has seen. So that's something that I noticed and that I watch for. Any downtrend or uptrend that you can, and AMD is, I think I've shown a lot of people on AMD, a lot of times you'll have a uptrend, right? And you'll fall over or down below that uptrend, and then in order to bull trap people, they'll shoot it back up, right? Because you've fallen, the angle still remains, and then you have more distance as you fall, more distance between that resistance, a spike up, and you'll notice that quite often. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 573. I apologize, Jim. Thank you, man. That's the one thing about you'll. Yeah, they just see them. They go up and down. So, all right. Of course, big step. All right. So with Tesla, I think a good trigger mark. Right now you look like you're kind of accumulating with a little flag. So don't be surprised if you see a pop right up into these highs. Now, you either want a consolidate, right? So I'll just kind of scratch out what that could potentially look like. So you know maybe you pull off something like that, right? So shoot up, and or you break up and then you inevitably fall. And I think inevitably you fall out of both situations here. But that's my thoughts. And honestly, when you're trading and you have so many inside days like this, you want to wait for at least for a high probability trade. You would want to take maybe a push past 230, right? Up to that top channel, 250, 750. So 750 if it decided to go that way, but that's only if the market allots that type of movement. So all right, so let's go ahead and let's go ahead and get to Disney. I'm moving. Okay, so Disney is also a hot crock of garbage at the moment, and I'm not quite sure why. I don't think that their earnings really constitutes this type of movement, but I will say, and as you can tell, I'm ignoring this earnings candle, right? I'm watching and looking for what potentially, and I'm like I said, I'm ignoring this. If you notice this downtrend, you've broken back above it and you've popped off. I think that a simple target for Disney past 180, right? And you can set a little alert. 180 and 181, I think you shoot up to 184. Simple, right? Maybe 185. But I think that a simple $5 move Monday or Tuesday is a good mark, looking at the movement that we've had so far. And I would set an alert. There's 180.50, 181, 183.35. And again, new traders, of course, you guys can always throw up your pivot points, right? Where did we pop off or above? Pivot point here, hourly time frame. See that? See how we hold that pivot point? So we're going to maybe want to see it past 281. So I was on the money with that. So resistance 1, 281, 281.25. So a little 25-cent range. We break that. I think 284, not 285, but 284. And I'm going to write Disney down because I think Disney has the setup to give us a little bit of a move. All right, let's get to AMD. Okay, wow. Okay, so I was just saying exactly what I was just saying on AMD. So take a peek at this real quick. All right, so as you notice, right, this is a support right here. Now, what happens is we end up fading, right? Every bear, even me, I was thinking maybe I'll short AMD. And right whenever, look at it, just starts creeping down and then immediately shoots right back up. And what happens? It just, Friday trading, absolutely hot dog water. And you end up just consolidating here. So the further you consolidate, right, the further you can pop up to the end, the upside. So for AMD, right, I want to see AMD up above, way up above 112.50. I need to be back up against or above this downtrend or uptrend, which is now our resistance turn, support turn resistance. So in this case, AMD, I would say 111.75, right? And then 111.65, and you could see a decent pop on AMD. Of course, this is semiconductor related. This is riding its HMA. This did break out of a major reversal pattern, and on top of that, and really that what trumps all of this is it has a 4-hour inverse head and shoulders. So another one. So Netflix, Disney, AMD, Lemonade. Oh, dyslexia got me on that one. Microsoft. I'm gonna throw DNet on there because yeah, BBIG. That's more. I just take when Atlas and Georgie told me to buy BBIG, I buy it because I trust them, and I usually can look at the chart and see what they see, or I see the volume that they see, and I can make a move from there. So anyway, with AMD, really nice inverse head and shoulders here. If we do not break out, okay, if we do not break out this week, consolidation, right? You see this support, you see this space. That's where AMD stays if we don't have the juice. Clearly, the market needs the juice. Do you see a gap to the downside on BA? I'll take a look. Hey David, here's what I recommend for you if you're just new to trading, and I'm not giving you advice, but if I was giving somebody advice, I would probably say that, and this has everything to do with your financial status. I have nothing to say about that. That is totally up to you. You're a responsible adult. But margin and new traders is not good. So I haven't seen a lot of success stories out of that. That doesn't mean that should be nothing to take like personally or to make you feel like you have an obstacle in the way. I just think that there's a better way to practice, especially when you're new. Utilize paper trading. Now, paper trading isn't going to give you that emotional gut feeling, and that's why I've set up that whole like I think what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to really set up a paper trading prize competition, and I'm going to have everybody set a paper trading account, so that way there is going to be an emotional part of it, right? You're trading to win, and so in this case, I might set up a $5,000 account, first person to 10, something like that, and go. But that way people are, you still need to have some sense of gut feelings and emotions that come with trading to in order to teach yourself. But yeah, what do the green and red diamond line represent? Oh, don't get confused by that. I apologize. Um, I'm gonna turn 40. Hamza, you know, I don't know if you want to look at me in the camera. If you were sitting in front of me in a class full of people, would you act this way? I'm doing this for people in the chat and outside of the chat. So if you don't like this channel and you don't like the timing in which I do things, then you can absolutely find somewhere else to go. But I'm doing this to help people, including yourself. If you want to stay, I will absolutely get to this chart. But the more that you go on, now I'm spending more time addressing this. So please continue to wait and patiently, just like everybody else does every single night. So thank you. I appreciate you. Um, Okay, so the diamonds, don't worry about that. That is a whole ribbon indicator. I use that on the daily, and sometimes when you go to the 4 hour, the data starts to look a little weird, and so it mixes up my chart. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and what do we got? Okay, AMD. Actually, you were kind of fussing, dude, and you were literally next. Okay, so let's look at your company. Looks like you're going to have to, I would say in this case, exhibiting patience is going to be number one. Because in this case, you are at a major support level and you're in a well established downtrend. So I think that this is an ultimate test of patience. So in this case right here, you're going to want to maintain the 1250 level, right? So you already have 1, 2, 3 taps off of that support. If you break that support, you're more than likely going to head down to 1085, correct? That's also something you could potentially, oh, I was close. 985. So you have 985. I think 1085 is still a good target as well. But that's your next support level. So basically $10 if you fall from here. And I might actually I might take a downside position on that. So I don't have to. Okay. Let's see. There you go. Okay, so if you bounce, right? So if you bounce, I think the first immediate place that you could verify that potential break and downtrend is going to be around 1485. 1485, then you're going to want to see a break and downtrend, right? So this would be 1, 2, 3. 3 is the magic number when you're inside of a pattern. It doesn't really matter which one it is. Usually you want to see 3 taps of resistance and a breakout, or 3 taps of support and a breakdown. So that's what I would be looking for there. It's too early to tell, but I'll leave that there. So I would venture to guess that past 1180, you could probably verifiably say that TIGR is going to end up down at 995, or they're going to be holding. All right. So what do we got? We got Sava. I think I looked at Sava already, but oh, beautiful. So this is actually the original pop to 118, and it fell back down. So take a peek at this. This is a major, looks like supply. So look at that. So, but this zone right here, um, let's go to the hourly real quick. Strong channel. Okay. Oof. Okay. So you've definitely got buyers here at the $48, $50 level, right? Super duper strong bounce. And then this was obviously on the speculation that the data or the judgment that was passed down was incorrect or biased. You have heavy FUD on Sava. I don't think now I don't think that I can chart a bounce in anywhere. I think at this point, it's that every if you're watching Sava, right? Let's say you have Benzinga Pro or you need to be literally hunting down the news, any type of news. If you have to go to Sava's headquarters with a telescope, no, don't do that. That's probably illegal. But you really need to be paying close attention to that news as it comes out because that is going to be the number one thing here. And what I would really, really pay close attention to, right, is watch for massive either block trades or huge orders on the tape. Watch for big orders if you're moving down and you see big orders on the tape, still watch it. Okay, because that's where I start to pay attention. Okay, where there's whales stepping in, does somebody know something? Um, I think that on the daily time frame, you have one last level to bounce, right? If you do continue down, that's going to be 43.50. 43.50 below that, you have 35, which I just can't imagine it going that far. Um, there you go. Colby. Yeah, USO is one of the charts. Oh man, I thought that looked really weird. Okay, I'm moving along, moving along. SQ. I just realized I put my Q key on sideways. That's why I've been pressing it as an O. Hey, you. All right. Should probably stop doing it. I got way too much going on. Lay off that. Like, she okay? Coughing? Really? Oh, weird. She does. She might just have like allergies. We'll see. We'll talk to her. Yeah, we'll watch her. Okay, so right here on Square, it's actually a really interesting setup here. Definitely not one to sleep on. Um, so let's go ahead. Let's just go delete that, right? So we have our angle. We don't need any more confirmation. So here we go on Square. Very, very, very well consolidated. This is where alerts are your friend. Any rejection point that you see, you got to set an alert on it, right? So let's do that. Upside and downside. So rejection occurs at 274.30. Rejections occur at 272.31. Rejections occur at 270, 267. So what you're going to want to see is a bounce on Square back up above 268 into and above 270. Above that level, you're going to be watching for the 272 maybe even the 270-250 break, right around here. That's going to be confirmation of a break and downtrend, right? That's what I'm going to be watching for there. Square, when it does, now this is a daily rising megaphone. Now don't get confused by it because there's a lot of patterns. The rising megaphone isn't like a super common one, but it is one that I've seen before. So if we do not end up rejecting, I want you guys to be really, really careful in this area. If we do not end up rejecting, we break to the upside. I'd say 277. We may see Square in the $300 range. That's probably not going to happen in the climate that we're in, but I've learned not to doubt the stock market. So that's Square. I think anywhere past 278, 280, and we see a screamer. But that obviously has a lot to do with how that sector does. Now, just in the midterm, right, the break and downtrend will occur at 272, and we can take it from there, evaluate the volume as we go. Um, but yeah, so square in a bilateral pattern could kind of go either way. That's literally what that means. So I'll be there in a minute. My daughter is kind of coughing right now, so I'm gonna probably go ahead and make this quick. Okay. So let me go ahead and go down here to the hourly. So it looks to me that you got a pretty stiff rejection off of this top channel. So it's not too far fetched to think that you could potentially see more of that downside. So right now, this looks like it's your downtrend, right? So maybe mark that as well on your chart. Starting off this little high here, that's what it looks like to me. So basically above this previous high, 256.50, maybe you see another crack at it. Otherwise, watch for a rejection, and below 251, maybe you see a potential bounce here around, let's see, go back to the daily. It'd be hard to see it go all the way back here, but it's not outside of the question. I did root on my YouTube. If you want to look at root insurance, I did root already. So anyway, sorry. Let me put the pivot points back on here. Okay, so you did get a bounce off that pivot point. That's why you ended up so strong. You're back at the 9-day moving average. So if a pullback happens 150, so if you break below 150, you're going back down to the 145 level. If you stay where you're at and you reverse, I think you take another crack at the 160 level. So that's what I would be looking for on Airbnb. This is your downtrend. Watch that downtrend. Watch 256.50. Watch 258. That's another bounce level, break level. All right. All good, man. All good. Um, all right. Let's see here. Hopefully that helped. Okay, so Pinterest, I think a lot of people are kind of watching Pinterest here. I saw someone drew a cup on it. It's not a cup. Not a cup. Not yet. I mean, maybe that if it goes back up to the $60 level. So let's go look at the volume. That's number one. So there's nothing crazy happening here on the volume. Okay, so in my opinion, I watched this one above 58.34. I think with there's no problem heading up to $60, $61 at the most. That's above the 20 EMA there. This, like a lot of stocks that have gone past earnings, are seeing like rebounds. You're seeing UPS is another one that is just kind of dropped on earnings and staying in range. Like nothing is happening, and it's getting closer. Oh, there it is, right there. Look at that. Now we set alerts on it. I got you, little bastard. Um, there you go. Okay. So on UPS, or on stocks like this that move like after earnings, second. A lot of times, you'll continue to see range bound movement, and unfortunately, that's kind of what you're seeing here with Pinterest. Is you have a lot of range bound movement. It's not looking like it has really any volume stepping up to the up or the downside. So here's what you have to do with Pinterest: is set a lot of alerts on those price marks. $60 break, 65.50, or 65.50, 60.50, and these major moving averages here, like the 20 and the 50 EMA. Those are going to be where you actually, because more than likely what's going to take us out of this situation, and I mean we do have a downtrend, right, that we're really really far away from. So I mean, like, just on technicals, if you needed to go test this resistance, it's not out of the question that we go and we hit, right? So that's going to be above that 20-day EMA. We go to 63, somewhere in that range. That wouldn't fill the gap, but that would have us against resistance, right? And then you could figure out where you're going to go from there. But in the meantime, right, I would say the last 2 days you get higher than average volume and you hardly make any moves anywhere. So keep that in mind. Doesn't look like the funnest stock to play. You have very quick movements, snapping from 58 down to 56. So if that's enough for you as far as risk to reward, then go for it. But I would wait for more substantial movements. We made our guapo on this red candle, and I'll wait for it to momentum or to return some type of catalyst. Uh, do I do forex here and there? I'm not like a forex guy. I gotta get Tanner and my teeth whitened. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off any other requests. Go ahead, leave it at that. Um, Apparently everybody's watching Root, so I'll write it down as some side plays. I've looked at the chart. The chart looks pretty interesting. Am I an am I an introvert? I feel like a lot of intelligent and independent people find it hard to. I'll answer that when I guess the rest of the question. Socialize. Um, that's a good question. Yes and no. Uh, I very much have to be alone a lot to just gather my thoughts, and almost like get ready to speak to people. But at the same time, I went to 7 different high schools all around. I went to I think around 14 schools, I would say at a minimum. I think 14, 15 schools overall. Um, I met my fiance at one of them, like I've moved so many different places. I've talked to so many different people. So I was almost forced to make a choice on whether I wanted to like I mean, I think I came to the point where I just realized no matter what I say, no matter what I do, I'm gonna be kind of judged for it. I'm not. I've been called a weird dude. I've been called all sorts of stuff. I have round glasses. I get it, but at some point, I just decided I was gonna accept myself for who I was at that time, and just I noticed that when I did just be myself and I talk, and this has a lot to do with trading, and this is why I'm actually answering this question. Um, but the more that I put myself out there, the better, the more of a reception that I got, and I realized that most of it was in my head, that I had a lot of these insecurities built up in my head and not not. And I wouldn't even say like being an introvert is a bad thing. Like if you're just a quiet and interior like person, uh then yes. But I think that it you can have quiet people who aren't that smart, you know. I think it's very situational based. But for me, I'm a little bit of both. I like to meet and conversate, talk to people. I like to hear what people I like to hear about people's perspectives. Because after all of those different schools and all these different places that I've been, I think that's the number one thing that I've gathered as the most important thing is to continue to learn from people, listen to their different perspectives, um, and learn what you can from them, because everybody's learning lessons. And if you listen well enough, sometimes you can learn some too. Um, all right. Well, I am um, going to look at DKNG and eBay. Apparently, I already have DKNG charted. Okay, so there is a very wide range here that we appear to be trading in. Now, this was a speculatory um, oh, support. Oh my God. Stop it. Trading view. I don't want to draw that line anymore. So what we have here so far, right? Um, it does appear I don't want to go too far. Let me just delete that. So let's, yes, I want to delete that. Okay, so, and like I said, this top line is purely speculative, right? I'm only speculating that this is a proper support. Um, this is absolutely I can tell by the angle right here, this is absolutely a support. This looks like a rising wedge. So watch DK and G to potentially go back up to 62, maybe even 62.30, and then taper back down and then pop right back up. So 65 maybe by Wednesday. If you trade in this pattern, I wouldn't even go that far. I'd say underneath 64. I wouldn't even go past 65, to be honest with you, with the setup that you're currently in. So, of course, you're going to want to see a wick fill. And I think what might happen here, looking at the setup, I could be wrong, but what would happen here is you would see a lot of people would be playing the wick fill and then looking for the wick fill as a potential entry to the upside, where at that point you would get maybe a 25-cent move, and then you would end up rejecting, tapering back down to support around 61 bucks, and then potentially bouncing up and out. Cruisy boy, hit me up, man. If you ever need to talk, or if you want to hop in and listen, just talk to some man. I know that it sounds easy, but I deal with those thoughts still. I'm a human being. I do all of this and still feel incredibly insecure sometimes. Sometimes I look at the chart and I'm like, what, like, like there's times where I question myself, and only in those moments do I find like, okay, well, am I gonna keep going, or am I gonna pull back or fall out on that? So um okay, so with DKG, that's what I'm thinking here. And eBay, I hate you. I don't hate eBay. I just uh, me and Kramer promised me that I would have horses, and I don't have any horses. If you guys are OGs in simple stacks, you guys know what I'm talking about here. I don't know why I'm charting that. OCD. I can't tell you how ugly that is. That sounded pretty mean. I mean, it's just a stock, but that's not a really pretty chart. We can be, oof, yeah, okay. So I honestly, if you can't clear 76.75, and you could very well break up above and use this as support, it's not outside of the question. So come back here, little shit. So break up, back down, use that as support. That not like that, but otherwise, if you stay within this channel, right, that we have projected and could be wrong, then you could end up falling here. Let me check something first. And this is a fresh chart, so I could be wrong. I don't know. I really feel that I'm correct on it because if you see the, yeah, 2 rejections there, rejection there. Let me move that up. Look at all these wicks. Wick. Yeah, so that looks into mathematically sound channel as well. So I would suspect eBay to pull back to 73.50 if you end up rejecting this channel top. Channel top comes at 77 bucks. Okay. Oh no. There we go. Alrighty. I'll look at Manu and then we'll go ahead and dip. All right. Yo, wow. Okay, so that's funny that you just asked me to look at that. Are you in our Discord? Did you hear me? Did you take Manu? I grabbed a contract of Manu. I'm invested in the soccer. You did take Manu? Okay, so that was driven off of news. That's why we saw that big spike. Look at the after hours picture. So retail attracted, right? After hours pick back up. So it looks like what you had is you had a little flush out. And it looks like you're about to go see another high. I would suspect $20 potentially, just looking at the daily. So you have yeah, 20 is that previous high. And that came on earnings as well. So you're running up into earnings. You've got good news. So I took that speculatively, but it actually looks like it might have a little bit of momentum behind it. I'm surprised nobody knows about this stock in America. Like, what? Not more people, I guess. All right. Well, that's it for me, guys. I gotta go ahead and shut it down. It's 10:15. Make sure you guys have your watch list. If you're waking up 30 minutes before the bell, you're going to feel anxiety. Just throwing that out there for sure. So if you want to lessen your chances of anxiety and heighten your chances of feeling calm and confident in the setup that you've selected, then I would highly recommend being up a little bit early. So, thanks, Sean. I love you, Sean. That's the plunger boy. Um, Thanks for being on here, man, and watching. I appreciate you. Uh, but anyway, just don't sleep. Yeah. Not me. All right. Well, thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Um, I will be on tomorrow morning around 8:30, 8:15. If I see pre-market movement, I will signal on my, if you're not in our Discord, if you are in our Discord, be sure to have your alerts set at least on the announcement channel. I will be alerting you when I go live, or I will be tweeting it on my Twitter, and I'll let you guys know. I tweet every single morning when I go live, even if it's just random and I'm like, oh shit, I see something. So, um, yeah, I know that. Okay. But anyway, you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow. I think I just tried to combine tomorrow and see you, and I got tomorrow. Good night. All right.